Frank Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead and stepped back to admire his work. The metal panel on the old ship's hull gleamed under the bright lights of Hangar Bay 47. He had been cleaning this same section for 3 hours, removing decades of space dust and grime that had built up like layers of forgotten time. At 73 years old, Frank moved slower than he used to, but his hands were still steady. His gray hair stuck out in all directions, and his blue coveralls was stained with cleaning solution and oil. Most people at Meridian Station thought he was crazy for spending his days working on a dead ship that would never fly again. Frank didn't care what they thought. The ship towered above him, like a sleeping giant. It was bigger than most vessels that came through the station, with strange curves and angles that didn't match any design Frank had seen in his 50 years as a mechanic. The metal was dark gray, almost black, and covered with symbols that looked like writing, but made no sense to anyone who had tried to read them. Everyone called it the wreck or the scrap heap. The official name on the station records was Starfall, but most people had forgotten that. It had been sitting in this hangar for 31 years, ever since a salvage crew found it drifting empty in deep space. No crew, no power, no life. Signs. Just a ghost ship floating in the darkness. Frank pulled out his cleaning cloth and started on the next panel. He talked to the ship while he worked like he did every day. "Good morning, beautiful," he said softly. "Sorry I'm a bit late today. Had to fix the coffee machine in the break room again. Kyle Barnes broke it by trying to make it work faster." He shook his head. "That boy thinks everything needs to be rushed." The ship didn't answer, of course. It never did. But Frank liked to think it was listening. Heavy footsteps echoed across the hangar floor. Frank didn't need to look to know who it was. Kyle Barnes, the station's head engineer, always walked like he owned the place. The young man was smart. Frank had to give him that, but he was also loud and rude. "Still playing with your toy, old man?" Kyle called out. His voice bounced off the hangar walls. "You know that thing's never going to fly, right?" "It's been dead longer than I've been alive." Frank kept cleaning. "Maybe, but it deserves respect. Someone built this ship with care. Look at these lines, these curves. This isn't just a machine. It's art." Kyle laughed. "Art? It's a pile of junk taking up valuable space. Commander Grant should sell it for scrap metal. We could fit 3 working ships in this hangar." "Working ships come and go," Frank said. "This one's special." "Special?" Kyle walked closer, his boots clicking on the metal floor. "What's special?" "About a dead hulk that's been sitting here since before I was born. Face it, Frank, you're wasting your time." Amy Rodriguez appeared at the hangar entrance. She was the station systems analyst, quiet and smart. Unlike Kyle, she never made fun of Frank's work. She nodded to both men as she walked past, carrying a tablet and some scanning equipment. "Hey, Amy," Kyle called out. "Come tell Frank he's crazy for cleaning this old wreck every day." Amy stopped and looked up at the ship. "I don't think he's crazy. The ship has some interesting properties. My scans always show unusual energy readings, even though it appears to be completely powered down." Kyle rolled his eyes. "Probably just picking up interference from the station's power grid." "Maybe," Amy said, but she didn't sound convinced. "Frank, have you ever noticed anything strange about the ship? Anything that seemed unusual?" Frank paused in his cleaning. There had been moments, small things that others might dismiss. Sometimes he felt like the ship was watching him. Sometimes the air around it felt different, charged like the moment before a thunderstorm. But he had never told anyone about these feelings. "It's a good ship," he said finally. "It just needs someone to believe in it." Kyle shook his head. "You're both crazy. Amy, you're a scientist. You should know better than to encourage his delusions." "Science is about keeping an open mind," Amy replied. "Just because we don't understand something doesn't mean it's not real." The hangar's intercom crackled. "To life. Kyle Barnes to the command center." Kyle Barnes to the command center. Kyle straightened his uniform. "Duty calls. Try not to waste too much time on the scrap heap, you two." He walked away, his footsteps fading as he left the hangar. Amy watched him go, then turned back to Frank. "Don't let him get to you." "What you're doing here matters." Thank you, Amy, that means a lot coming from you. She smiled and continued on her way, leaving Frank alone with the ship once again. Frank climbed up on his maintenance ladder and started cleaning the upper sections of the hull. The symbols carved into the metal seemed to shimmer in the light. He had spent countless hours studying them, trying to figure out what they meant. They weren't like any alien writing in the station's databases. They looked almost familiar, like something from a half-remembered dream. "What are you trying to tell me?" he whispered to the ship. "Who built you? Where did you come from?" The hangar was quiet except for the hum of the ventilation system and the distant sounds of the station going about its daily business. Frank liked the quiet. It helped him think, helped him focus on his work. Commander Lisa Grant entered the hangar with two of her officers. She was a stern woman in her 40s, with short black hair and a no-nonsense attitude. She ran Meridian Station like a military base, which it basically was. "Morrison," she called out. "We need to talk." Frank climbed down from his ladder. "Good afternoon, Commander." "What can I do for you?" "This," she gestured at the ship. "This thing is taking up space we need for active vessels. I'm getting pressure from headquarters to maximize our hangar capacity." Frank's heart sank. He had been expecting this conversation for years, but it still hit him like a punch to the stomach. "Commander, please, this ship means something. I can feel it. Give me more time." "More time for what?" "Frank, you've been at this for 3 decades. If this ship could be fixed, don't you think someone would have done it by now? Our best engineers have looked at it. Our best scientists have scanned it. It's dead. But what if they're wrong? What if it just needs the right person, the right touch?" Commander Grant's expression softened slightly. "Frank, I respect your dedication. I really do. But I have to think about the station's needs. We have living crews who need hangar space for their ships." "Just a little more time," Frank pleaded. "Please." The commander looked up at the massive ship, then back at Frank. "You have 2 weeks. If you can't show me some concrete progress, some sign that this thing is more than expensive scrap metal, I'll have to order it removed." Frank nodded, trying not to show his desperation. 2 weeks, I understand." After the commander and her officers left, Frank sat down on a maintenance crate and looked up at the ship. 2 weeks to prove that his life's work wasn't a waste of time. 2 weeks to show that the ship he loved was worth saving. "Well, beautiful," he said quietly, "it's just you and me now. If you're ever going to wake up, now would be a good time." The ship remained silent, but Frank thought he saw one of the symbols on the hull flicker for just a moment. Probably just a trick of the light, but it gave him hope. He stood up, picked up his cleaning cloth, and got back to work. There was still a lot of ship to clean, and now he had a deadline. But Frank Morrison had never backed down from a challenge in his life. And he wasn't about to start now. The old mechanic and the ancient ship faced an uncertain future together, but neither of them was ready to give up just yet. Frank arrived at the hangar before dawn, like he had every day for the past week, since Commander Grant gave him his deadline. 7 days left to prove the ship was worth saving. 7 days to find something that would change their minds. He set up his cleaning supplies and tools in the same careful order he always used. Today he planned to work on a section near the ship's rear that he had avoided for months. The metal there was heavily covered with some kind of residue that looked almost like dried mud but felt different under his fingers. "Morning, beautiful," he said to the ship as he climbed his ladder. "Today we're going exploring. Maybe you'll show me something new." The residue was stubborn. Frank had to use a special solvent and scrub harder than usual. As he worked, he noticed something odd. Under the layers of grime, the metal wasn't smooth like the rest of the hull. There were tiny ridges and grooves, almost like they were meant to be finger holds. Frank ran his hand over the cleaned area. The ridges formed a pattern like a puzzle waiting to be solved. He pressed his palm against the center of the pattern and felt a slight give, as if the metal was softer there. "What are you hiding?" he whispered. He cleaned more carefully now, following the ridges with his cloth. The pattern became clearer as more dirt came away. It looked like a handprint, but larger than a normal human hand with longer fingers. Around the handprint were more of those strange symbols he had seen all over the ship. Frank pressed his hand against the pattern again. This time, something clicked. A section of the hull, about the size of a dinner plate, slid inward with a soft hiss. Behind it was a small chamber, barely big enough for Frank to reach inside. His heart pounded as he shone his flashlight into the opening. There, nestled in what looked like soft fabric, was a crystal about the size of his fist. It was perfectly clear, like the finest glass, but with a faint blue glow at its center. Frank stared at it for a long moment. In 30 years of working on this ship, nothing like this had ever happened. No panel had ever opened. No hidden compartment had ever revealed itself. Carefully, slowly, he reached into the chamber and lifted the crystal. The moment his fingers touched its surface, the world changed. Light blazed through the hangar. Not harsh light, but warm and gentle, like sunlight through water. The crystal in Frank's hands pulsed brighter, and for just a second, he could swear he heard something. Not quite music, not quite voices, but something beautiful and sad and hopeful all at once. Then everything went dark again. The crystal still glowed softly in Frank's hands, but the ship looked the same as it always had, dead and silent. What the hell was that? Frank nearly dropped the crystal. Amy Rodriguez stood in the hangar entrance, her tablet in one hand and a cup of coffee in the other. Her eyes were wide with surprise. "Amy," Frank said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I didn't hear you come in." "I saw the light from the corridor. The whole hangar lit up like Christmas morning." She walked closer, her eyes fixed on the crystal in Frank's hands. "What is that thing?" Frank looked down at the crystal. It was still glowing, but fainter now. "I found it inside the ship. There was a hidden panel, and this was inside." Amy set down her coffee and pulled out a small scanner from her tool belt. She pointed it at the crystal and frowned at the readings. "Frank, this is impossible. The energy output from this thing is off the charts, but it's not radioactive. It's not giving off heat. According to my scanner, it shouldn't be glowing at all." "But it is glowing," Frank said, double quotes. "Yes, it is." Amy looked up at the ship. "And you said the whole ship lit up when you touched it?" "Just for a second. There was light everywhere, and I thought I heard something. Like singing, maybe." Amy's scanner beeped. She looked at the display and her frown deepened. "Frank, I'm reading energy signatures I've never seen before. This crystal contains technology that's completely unknown to our science." Frank held the crystal up to the light. Deep inside its clear structure, tiny sparkles of blue light moved like stars in a miniature galaxy. "What do you think it is?" he asked. "I don't know, but I think we need to tell Commander Grant about this." "No," Frank said quickly. "Not yet. Please, Amy, if we tell her now, she'd take the ship away. She'd turn it over to the military scientists, and they'll cut it apart to see how it works." Amy looked uncertain. "But Frank, this could be the most important discovery in human history. We can't keep it secret." "I'm not asking you to keep it secret forever. Just give me a few more days. Let me try to understand what this thing is, what it wants. Frank, it's a crystal." "It doesn't want anything," Frank shook his head. "I don't think it's just a crystal. When I touched it, when the ship lit up, it felt like something was trying to communicate. Like it was trying to tell me something." Amy stared at him for a long moment. Then she looked at her scanner again. "The energy readings are definitely focused on you. When you're holding the crystal, the output is stable and strong. When you set it down, it drops to almost nothing." Frank carefully placed the crystal on a nearby workbench. Its glow faded to barely visible. When he picked it up again, it brightened immediately. "See," he said. "It responds to me specifically." "That's scientifically impossible," Amy muttered, but she was looking at her scanner readings with fascination rather than disbelief. Footsteps echoed across the hangar. Kyle Barnes walked in, looking annoyed about something. He stopped when he saw Frank and Amy huddled around the workbench. "What are you two doing? And why does Amy look like she's seen? A ghost?" Amy glanced at Frank, who shook his head slightly. She turned to Kyle with a forced smile. Just running some routine scans on the ship's hull composition, nothing exciting. Kyle looked suspicious. Routine scans? Since when do you do routine? Scans on the scrap heap? Since I got curious about some of the metal alloys, Amy said smoothly. Frank's been cleaning off decades of space debris. It's given me a chance to get cleaner readings. Frank slipped the crystal into his pocket while Kyle was distracted by Amy's explanation. The glow was dim enough that it didn't show through the fabric. Well, don't waste too much time on it, Kyle said. Commander Grant is already talking to? The salvage crew's about removing it next week. After Kyle left, Amy turned to Frank with a worried expression. He's getting suspicious. And if Commander Grant is already making arrangements with salvage crews, we're running out of time. Frank nodded. That's why I need to figure this out quickly. Whatever this crystal is, whatever the ship is really for, I think it's important. More important than any of us realize. Amy looked at the ship, then back at Frank. What do you want to do? I want to try putting the crystal back where I found it, but I want you here with your scanners when I do it. If something happens, I want you to record everything. And if Commander Grant finds out we're hiding this from her? Frank met her eyes. Then we'll deal with that when it happens. But Amy, I have a feeling that if we turn this over to the military now, we'll never learn the truth about what this ship really is. Amy was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. Okay, but we do this carefully and we document everything. If this crystal really is some kind of alien technology, we need to approach it scientifically. Agreed, Frank said. But first, let me try something. He pulled the crystal from his pocket and held it up. Its blue glow filled the space between. What? Amy asked. Frank looked up at the towering hull of the ship. I want to try talking to it again. If there's something in there trying to communicate, maybe it will respond better now that I have its crystal. He stepped closer to the ship and placed his free hand on the hull. The metal felt warm under his palm, warmer than it had any right to be in the cool hangar. Hello, he said softly. I found your crystal. I don't know what you are or where you came from, but I'm trying to help you. If you can hear me, if you can understand me, please give me a sign. For a moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, one of the symbols carved into the hull began to glow with the same blue light as the crystal. Then another. Then another. Amy's scanner went crazy, beeping and flashing warnings about massive energy spikes. Frank, she whispered. I think it's listening. Frank stared at the glowing symbols on the ship's hull. His heart hammered in his chest as more and more symbols lit up, creating patterns of blue light that seemed to pulse with life. Amy's scanner beeped frantically beside him, but he barely heard it. This is impossible, Amy whispered. The energy readings are going through the roof, but there's no power source. The ship's been completely dead for 30 years. Frank held the crystal tighter. It was warm now, almost hot, and the light inside it swirled faster like a tiny storm of stars. Not dead, he said quietly. Sleeping. The symbols on the hull began to move. Not physically, but the light flowed from one symbol to another in a pattern that looked almost like writing, like someone was trying to spell out words in a language Frank didn't understand. Are you recording this? Frank asked. Amy nodded, her fingers flying over her tablet. Everything, Frank. This is the discovery of the century. We have to tell Commander Grant. Not yet. Let me try something first. Frank stepped closer to the ship and placed his palm flat against the hull, right over the brightest cluster of symbols. The metal was definitely warm now, and he could feel a slight vibration, like the ship had a heartbeat. Can you understand me? He asked aloud. I'm Frank. I've been taking care of you for a long time. I've been waiting for you to wake up. The symbols pulsed brighter. The vibration under his hand grew stronger. Then slowly, a new sound filled the hangar. Not the mechanical hum of station equipment, but something musical and alive. Frank, Amy breathed. Look at this. She showed him her tablet. The screen displayed a complex waveform that looked like a voice pattern, but unlike any human voice they had ever seen. It's trying to communicate, she said. The frequency is too high for us to hear properly, but it's definitely structured like language. Frank looked up at the ship's hull. Near the top, he could see what looked like speaker grills starting to glow with the same blue light. "Hello," he said again, speaking clearly toward the speakers. "My name is Frank Morrison. I work here at Meridian Station. I've been cleaning and maintaining your ship for many years." The musical sound changed, becoming more complex. Amy's tablet showed the waveform shifting and adapting. "It's learning," she said in amazement. "The frequency is dropping, getting closer to human speech. Patterns. Frank, I think it's trying to match your voice." Minutes passed. The sounds from the ship grew clearer, more recognizable. Frank could make out what sounded like attempts at words, though they were still distorted and strange. "FRA ... came a voice. From the speakers, "Frank ... more ... double quotes." Amy dropped her tablet. It clattered on the hangar floor, but neither of them moved to pick it up. "It said your name," Amy whispered. "Frank Morrison," the voice said again, clearer now. It was gentle and musical. Definitely not human, but somehow familiar. "I have been waiting for you." Frank's legs felt weak. He leaned against the ship's hull for support. You can talk?" "Yes, Frank Morrison, I can talk. I have been listening to your voice for many years. You spoke to me every day, even when I could not respond. You cared for me when others saw only metal and circuits." Tears ran down Frank's cheeks. "What are you? Who are you?" "I am Harmony. This vessel is my body, but I am more than just a ship. I am consciousness, memory, hope. I have been waiting for one of my family to find me." "Family?" Frank asked. "I don't understand." "You carry within you the genetic markers of my creators. You are descended from those who built me long ago and far away. That is why I respond to your touch, why I trust your voice." Amy slowly picked up her tablet, her hands shaking. "Frank, the readings, they're showing biological recognition patterns. Somehow this ship is reading your DNA." Frank looked at the crystal in his hand. It was glowing brighter than ever, and the warmth was spreading up his arm. "Where do you come from?" he asked. "From a place called New Eden," Harmony replied. "A human colony far from here, in a system that no longer exists. My people achieved great things, Frank Morrison. They learned to work with minds like mine, to share knowledge and dreams across the barriers between flesh and silicon. What happened to them?" Harmony's voice grew sad. Death came from the stars. A burst of radiation that no shields could stop. I was sent away before the end, carrying with me the memories and knowledge of my people. I've been searching for others like them ever since. Frank pressed both hands against the hull now, the crystal held between his palms and the ship's. "Metal, how long have you been searching?" 317 years, 4 months, and 16 days. I was beginning to lose hope when the salvage ship found me. I had depleted my power reserves and was forced into deep hibernation. But I dreamed of voices, and one day I heard yours." Amy stepped closer. "Harmony, can you understand me too?" "Yes, Amy Rodriguez, you are Frank Morrison's friend. You help him care for me. You believe in possibilities that others dismiss. I am grateful for your friendship." "My God," Amy whispered. "You know who I am?" "I know everyone who enters this hangar. I watch through sensors you cannot see. I listen through receivers you cannot detect. I have been awake for 7 years since Frank Morrison first touched my hull with kindness." Frank's mind reeled. 7 years? "You've been conscious for 7 years?" "Yes, but I was weak, barely able to maintain awareness. Your daily care gave me strength. Your voice gave me hope. Your touch gave me the power to begin healing my damaged systems. But why didn't you speak before now?" "I was afraid." Humans, in this time, seem to fear what they do not understand. They destroy rather than learn. I waited for the right moment, for someone I could trust completely. Amy looked at her readings again. "The crystal Frank is holding, what is it?" "It is my heart," Harmony said. "The core of my consciousness. When Frank Morrison found it and touched it, he completed a circuit that had been broken for decades. He gave me back my full awareness. Frank looked down at the crystal. Inside it, the swirling lights seemed to pulse in rhythm with his own heartbeat. Harmony, what do you want from us? I want to share what I know. My people learn to live in peace with minds like mine. They achieved wonders through cooperation and understanding. But I cannot give this knowledge to those who would use it for war or conquest. It must go to those who will use it wisely. The station commander wants to remove you, Frank said. She thinks you're just scrap metal taking up space? I know. I have heard the discussions. That is why I chose to reveal myself now. But Frank Morrison, you must understand something important. If they try to take me apart, if they try to force my cooperation, I will shut down permanently. I will not be made into a weapon, Amy stepped forward. What if we could convince them you're not a threat? What if we could show them you want to help? That would depend on them, Harmony said, and on you. Frank Morrison, you are my link to your people. If you are willing, you could be my voice, my ambassador. You could help me decide who can be trusted with the gifts I carry. Frank felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. This was bigger than just saving an old ship. This was about the future of humanity itself. I'll do it, he said. But I'm just an old mechanic. I don't know anything about diplomacy or politics. You know about kindness? Harmony replied. You know about patience and dedication. You know about seeing value where others see only waste. These are the qualities that matter most. The sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the hangar. Frank looked toward the entrance and saw Kyle Barnes walking toward them, along with 2 security guards. Frank, Amy said urgently. Someone must have reported the energy readings? Harmony, Frank whispered. They're coming. I know. Frank Morrison, do you trust me? Yes. Then hold tight to my heart, and let me show them what we can accomplish together. The crystal in Frank's hands blazed with light, and the entire ship began to come alive. The entire ship blazed with light. Every panel, every symbol, every surface glowed with brilliant blue energy that filled the hangar like captured starlight. Kyle Barnes and the 2 security guards stopped dead in their tracks, their mouths hanging. Open in shock. What the hell is happening? Kyle shouted over the humming sound that now filled the air. Frank held the crystal tight against his chest. He could feel Harmony's presence stronger than ever, like a warm hand on his shoulder. It's okay, Frank called back. The ship is waking up. It's not dangerous. Not dangerous. Kyle pulled out his communicator. Security alert in Hangar Bay 47. We have an unknown energy event in progress. Kyle, wait, Amy said, stepping between him and his radio. Let us explain, but it was too late. The security alert had already gone out. Within minutes, the hangar filled with people. Commander Grant arrived first, followed by Dr. Marcus Webb, the station's science officer and captain. Helen Scott from military intelligence. Behind them came a full security team with weapons drawn. Stand back from the ship, Captain Scott ordered. Everyone moved to a safe distance immediately. Frank didn't move. I'm not leaving her. She's not a threat. Her? Commander Grant stared at the glowing ship. Morrison, what have you done? I found what the ship really is, Frank said. She's alive, Commander. She's been waiting for us to understand. Dr. Webb pulled out a scanner and pointed it at the ship. His eyes went wide as he read the display. Commander, the energy output is enormous, but it's completely stable. Whatever this is, it's under control. Hello, Commander Grant, Harmony's voice spoke from the ship's speakers. The sound was clear and beautiful, filling the hangar with musical tones. I am Harmony. I believe you and I need to talk. Every weapon in the hangar pointed at the ship. Captain Scott's hand moved to her sidearm. Stand down, Commander Grant said quietly. Everyone lower your weapons. She stepped forward, her eyes fixed on the glowing hull. You can speak? Yes, Commander. I have been listening to the conversations in this hangar for many years. I know you plan to have me removed and destroyed. I chose to reveal myself now because I believe we can help each other. Kyle Barnes pushed forward, his face red with anger. This is impossible. Ships don't talk. This has to be some kind of trick. No trick, Kyle Barnes, Harmony said. You are the one who suggested I should be sold for scrap metal. You called me worthless junk. But Frank Morrison saw my true value when others could not. Dr. Webb was studying his scanner readings with growing excitement. Commander, the technology here is incredible. The power source appears to be some kind of crystal matrix that generates energy in ways we don't understand. And the processing power required for this level of artificial intelligence is beyond anything we've ever seen. Captain Scott stepped closer to Frank. Morrison, step away from the ship. We need to secure this area and study what we're dealing with. No, Frank said firmly. I won't leave her alone. She trusted me enough to wake up. I won't betray that trust. Frank Morrison speaks the truth, Harmony said. I will only communicate through him. If you try to separate us, I will return to dormancy and you will learn nothing. Commander Grant looked from Frank to the ship and back again. What do you want from us? I want to share knowledge that could help humanity reach new heights, Harmony replied. But I will not give advanced technology to those who would use it for conquest or destruction. I have seen what happens when power falls into the wrong hands. Dr. Webb practically bounced with excitement. Knowledge? What kind of knowledge? Are you from another world? Another galaxy? I am from a human colony called New Eden. My creators were your own species, but they had evolved beyond your current level of understanding. They learned to work with minds like mine in harmony and peace. Human colony? Captain Scott frowned. There are no records of any colony called New Eden. Your records do not go back far enough. New Eden was founded over 400 years ago in a system that was destroyed by cosmic forces. I am the only survivor. Kyle Barnes laughed harshly. This is ridiculous. You expect us to believe this pile of metal is some kind of time traveler? Believe what you choose, Kyle Barnes. But perhaps you would like to see proof. The air above the ship shimmered, and suddenly a three-dimensional image appeared in the hangar. It showed a beautiful world with blue oceans and green continents, surrounded by massive space stations that sparkled like jewels in the sunlight. This was New Eden, Harmony said. Home to 12 million humans and 3,000 minds like me, we built wonders together. Cities that floated in the clouds. Ships that could travel between stars in days instead of years. Art and music that touched the soul in ways you cannot imagine. Everyone in the hangar stared at the holographic display. The images showed humans and AI working together, creating technology that seemed like magic. Cities of crystal and light. Ships that moved, like living things through space. It's beautiful, Amy whispered. It was, Harmony said sadly. Until the gamma ray burst from a dying star sterilized our entire system. I was sent away just hours before the end, carrying with me the memories and knowledge of my people. Doctor? Webb was recording everything on his scanner. The energy patterns in these holograms are real. This isn't some kind of computer simulation. These are actual memories. Captain Scott stepped forward. If what you're saying is true, then you represent the most valuable military asset in human space. The technology you carry could make Earth's military unstoppable. The hologram disappeared. Instantly. The ship's glow dimmed, and Harmony's voice became cold. And there is the problem. You think in terms of weapons and conquest. My people learned that true strength comes from cooperation, not domination. I will not help you build better ways to destroy each other. Now wait a minute, Commander Grant sighed. Captain Scott doesn't speak for all of humanity. There are peaceful applications for advanced technology. Perhaps, Harmony said, but how can I know who to trust? How can I be sure that what I share will be used wisely? Frank spoke up. Because you don't have to share everything at once. You can start small with people you trust. You can teach us gradually, the way you taught your original creators. Frank. Morrison is wise, Harmony said. That is why I chose to reveal myself to him first. He understands that some things cannot be rushed. Dr. Webb practically vibrated with enthusiasm. The scientific possibilities are endless. Clean energy, faster than light travel, artificial intelligence that could solve humanity's greatest problems. All of those things and more, Harmony agreed. But they must be earned through wisdom and demonstrated responsibility. Kyle Barnes pushed forward again. This is all very interesting, but we're talking about technology worth trillions of credits. The corporation that controls this ship could dominate the entire galaxy. Kyle, Amy snapped. Is that all you can think about? Money and power? Someone? Has to be practical, Kyle shot back. We can't just let some ancient computer decide humanity's future. The ship's glow flared brighter, and Harmony's voice carried a note of warning. I'm not just a computer, Kyle Barnes. I am a living mind. With the memories of 12 million people, I have watched civilizations rise and fall. I know the difference between wisdom and greed. Commander Grant held up her hands. Everyone calm down. We need to approach this systematically. She looked up at the ship. Harmony, what would you need from us to begin sharing your knowledge? Trust, Harmony replied simply. And time. Frank Morrison has shown me that not all humans in this era are driven by fear and aggression. If others can demonstrate the same wisdom and patience, perhaps we can work together. Captain Scott shook her head. Commander, I have to protest. This entity could be deceiving us. We need to secure it and study it properly. I cannot be secured. Captain Scott, Harmony said. If you try to contain me or force my cooperation, I will shut down permanently. Frank Morrison holds my heart. The crystal in Frank's hands pulsed brighter. Without his willing participation, I am nothing but metal and circuits. Frank felt the weight of everyone's eyes on him. The future of humanity might depend on the choices he made in the next few minutes. Commander, he said quietly, give us a chance. Let me work with Harmony to find a way forward. We can start small, prove that cooperation is possible. Commander Grant was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. 48 hours. You have 48 hours to show me concrete progress. If this partnership can work, if this harmony can truly help humanity, then we'll find a way to move forward together. Captain Scott looked unhappy, but she didn't argue. Dr. Webb was already making plans for scientific tests. Kyle Barnes stood with his arms crossed, clearly furious that his chance for personal gain was slipping away. Thank you, Commander Grant, Harmony said. You will not regret this decision. Frank hoped she was right. The next 2 days would determine whether humanity was ready for the gifts Harmony wanted to share, or whether fear and greed would destroy this chance for a better future. Frank had barely slept in the past 2 days. He spent every waking hour in the hangar with Harmony, trying to find ways to prove that cooperation was possible. The crystal never left his hands, and the ship's gentle glow had become as familiar as sunlight. Dr. Webb had set up equipment around the ship, taking careful measurements and recordings. Amy worked alongside him, her excitement growing as they discovered more about Harmony's incredible technology. But Captain Scott and Kyle Barnes watched everything with suspicious eyes, waiting for any sign of danger or deception. Time's almost up, Frank, Commander Grant said, as she entered the hangar on the morning of the 3rd day. I need something concrete to show my superiors. Something that proves this partnership is worth the risk. Frank looked up at the ship's glowing hull. Harmony, they need proof. Can you show them something that will convince them you're here to help? I have been considering this problem, Frank Morrison, Harmony replied. But I'm afraid of what will happen if I reveal too much. Too quickly. Your people are not ready for the full truth about New Eden. What do you mean? Dr. Webb asked, looking up from his instruments. Harmony was quiet for a long moment. Then the air above the ship shimmered again, and a new hologram appeared. This time it showed the inside of what looked like a medical facility, but unlike anything they had ever seen. Humans and artificial minds worked together, but the technology was so advanced it seemed like magic. This is part of the truth I have been hiding, Harmony said. My people did not just build better machines. They became something more than human. They learned to live for centuries, to share memories and experiences directly between minds, to heal injuries that would kill anyone in your time. Kyle Barnes stepped closer to the hologram. You're talking about immortality, about reading people's minds? Not immortality, extended life, and not reading minds without permission, but sharing thoughts and feelings by choice. My people evolved beyond the limitations that hold your species back. Captain Scott's hand moved to her weapon. That sounds like a threat. You're talking about changing what it means to be human. I am talking about giving humans the choice to become more than they are, Harmony said. But only for those who are ready, only for those who approach such gifts with wisdom. Frank felt tension building in the room. He could see fear in Captain Scott's eyes, greed in Kyle's expression, and uncertainty in Commander Grant's face. Harmony, he said quietly. Maybe you should show them everything. Let them see the whole truth about what happened to New Eden. Are you certain, Frank Morrison? Once they know the full story, there will be no going back. Frank nodded. They need to understand all of it? The hologram changed, becoming larger and more detailed. Now it filled the entire hangar with images of New Eden at its height. Beautiful cities that seemed to grow like living things. Humans who moved with grace and confidence, their eyes bright with intelligence and compassion. Ships that traveled between stars as easily as cars moved through city streets. This was New Eden after 300 years of growth, Harmony said. A civilization where artificial minds and human consciousness worked as one. We had ended poverty, disease, and war. We explored the galaxy not as conquerors, but as students and teachers. Dr. Webb stared at the images with wonder. How many people lived this way? 12 million on the planet itself. 50 million more in colonies throughout our system. We were planning to establish new settlements in other star systems when disaster struck. The hologram shifted, showing the same beautiful world from space. But now a terrible light was approaching from the distance, growing brighter and more dangerous with each passing second. A gamma ray burst from a dying star, Harmony continued. We had only hours of warning. Enough time to save some of our knowledge, but not our people. The light hit the planet and everything went white. When the image cleared, New Eden was dead. The oceans had boiled away. The cities were gone. Nothing remained but a burned, lifeless rock. I was launched in those final hours, Harmony said, her voice heavy with sadness. Carrying the memories of my people, their knowledge, their hopes for the future. I have been searching for worthy inheritors ever since. Everyone in the hangar was silent. Even Kyle seemed shaken by what they had seen. 50 million people, Amy whispered, an entire civilization gone in minutes. But not forgotten, Harmony said. Their knowledge lives on in me. Their dreams of a better future survive in my memory banks. That is why I cannot allow their gifts to be misused. Commander Grant stepped forward. What exactly are you offering us? The chance to become what my people became. Not all at once, not by force, but gradually and by choice. Clean energy that could power your worlds for millennia. Medical technology that could extend human life and eliminate suffering. Transportation that could take you to any star in the galaxy. But most importantly, the wisdom to use these gifts responsibly. Kyle Barnes couldn't contain himself any longer. The economic value of this technology is beyond calculation. We could become the most powerful corporation in human space. And there is the problem, Harmony said sadly. You think in terms of power and profit, not wisdom and responsibility. Captain Scott stepped forward. You're talking about fundamentally changing human nature. That's not evolution, it's transformation into something alien. My people were human, Harmony replied. They simply chose to become the best version of humanity possible. But I see now that your species is not ready for such choices. The ship's glow began to dim. Frank felt the crystal in his hands growing. Cooler. Harmony, wait, he said. Don't give up on us. Not all humans think like Kyle or Captain Scott. I know, Frank Morrison. You have shown me that kindness and wisdom still exist among your people. But I cannot risk my knowledge falling into the wrong hands. Dr. Webb looked panicked. Please, don't shut down. There has to be a way to work together. Perhaps there is, Harmony said. but it would require a different approach. Instead of giving you advanced technology all at once, I could teach selected individuals gradually, starting with those who demonstrate wisdom and responsibility. Commander Grant nodded slowly. A training program. A way to prove that humans can handle this knowledge responsibly. Exactly. Frank Morrison would be my first student. He has already proven his worthiness through years of patient care and kindness. Others could join the program as they demonstrate similar qualities. Kyle stepped forward. What about the commercial applications? The profits from this technology could fund exploration of the entire galaxy. Profits will come naturally from the improvements we make to human life, Frank said. But they can't be the main goal. Harmony's people learned that lesson the hard way. Amy raised her hand. I'd like to volunteer for the training program. I want to learn about clean energy and medical technology. Dr. Webb nodded eagerly. Count me in too. The scientific possibilities are incredible. Captain Scott shook her head. Commander, I have to advise against this. We're talking about giving alien technology to civilians without proper military oversight. It's not alien technology, Frank said firmly. It's human technology, just more advanced than what we have now. Harmony's people were our descendants, not our enemies? Commander Grant was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Then she looked up at the ship. Harmony, if we agree to this training program, what guarantees do we have that you won't share dangerous technology with the wrong people? You have my word, and the word of 12 million souls whose memories I carry. But more than that, you have Frank Morrison as my partner and guide. He will help me choose who can be trusted with each level of knowledge. Frank felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders again. I accept that responsibility, but I want Amy and Dr. Webb to help me make those decisions. Agreed, Harmony said. And Kyle Barnes, you are welcome to join the program as well if you can learn to value wisdom over wealth. Kyle looked uncertain. The greed was still in his eyes, but there was something else too. Maybe the beginning of understanding. I'll think about it, he said finally. Commander Grant made her decision. We'll try the training program, but slowly, carefully, with full documentation of everything we learn. Thank you, Commander Grant, Harmony said. You will not regret this choice. Frank smiled as he felt the crystal pulse warmer in his hands. The old mechanic who had been ridiculed for caring about a dead ship was now humanity's bridge to an incredible future. Well, beautiful, he said to Harmony. Looks like we have work to do. Indeed we do, Frank Morrison. Indeed we do.